we'd like you to order our drinks for us.
Eddie, why can't you do that yourself?
Embarrassing.
Eddie, they're not going to ask you for your ID if you just walk up to the bar with a little authority.
How would you feel if one of the most famous actors in Hollywood refused to do the part that catapulted another actor to superstardom? It was James Coburn, the charismatic actor with the gaping smile, who accomplished just that. Was it poor timing, a lack of inspiration, or simply plain uninterested? His decisions' underlying truths expose a side of Coburn seldom discussed in the entertainment industry. Let's find out everything. The little Nebraska village of Laurel was the site of James Harrison Coburn III's birth on August 31, 1928. In the 1920s, his father, James Harrison Coburn Sr., had a prosperous auto repair business. His Swedish immigrant mother, Milet S. Coburn, instilled a little of her heritage in him and his siblings. Despite initial optimism, the family's garage company went under due to the Great Depression. For better prospects, they had to go out of Nebraska. One intriguing fact is that James was actually Robert's twin. Robert went in another direction, becoming a professor of philosophy at Ohio State University while James became an actor. Not everyone knows this, but James was really the grandson of Oscar-winning actor Charles Coburn. Nonetheless, during James's career, this link was largely ignored. They relocated to Compton, California after the Coburn family's business venture collapsed. In the past, Compton was a developing suburb. James didn't have a naturally deep and unique voice. He cultivated it as a young man. His distinctive voice was really shaped by a severe episode of bronchitis he had as a youngster. James was an usher at a movie theater when he was a student at Compton Junior College. He watched Mickey Rooney's films often during his shifts, becoming enamored with the actor. He wasn't yet really considering acting as a career, but this work sowed the seeds. James served in the United States Army from 1950 to 1951 at the age of 22. There were several unexpected events throughout his military service. He began his career in Texas as a truck driver, but he also found time to serve as a disc jockey for an Army radio station, where he entertained troops with his distinctive voice. His voice eventually landed him an unexpected assignment when stationed in West Germany. He was selected to narrate Army training videos, his very first experience acting on camera. He showed off his musical side by playing conga drums in a band at a local service club when he had free time. James resolved to devote more time and energy to acting after his discharge from the Army. He joined the Los Angeles City College acting program and trained under fellow aspiring actor Jeff Corey. However, his life took a dramatic change when he relocated to New York to train with the renowned Stella Adler. Stella Adler was a major impact on James's acting career and technique. Her words of encouragement, "Never be boring, darling," resonated deeply with James. She taught him how to give himself completely to his characters without sacrificing his own life. Many other performers at the period were adopting a method acting technique, which was very different from this. James's natural talent for playing several roles was something that Adler frequently lauded. In keeping with Adler's concept, James maintained a distinct separation between his persona and his parts while training with other legendary actors like Robert De Niro. His career as an actor was greatly influenced by this technique. In 1953, James Coburn made his television debut on Four-Star Playhouse. His distinctive screen appearance made him stand out, and he even appeared in an ad for Remington products. While flashing his trademark Gap grin, he shaved off 11 days' worth of beard growth in under a minute for the commercial. This was only the beginning. His major break came during the 1960-61 season when he co-starred in the NBC series Klondike. The show was set in Alaska during the Gold Rush and featured Coburn alongside Ralph Tager and Joan Taylor. He went on to appear in numerous NBC westerns, including hit shows like Bonanza. He demonstrated his versatility with multiple roles in series like Laramie, Tales of Wells Fargo, and The Restless Gun. Shortly after Klondike was canceled midway through the season, Tager and Coburn hopped on a new program called AKA, where they portrayed Mexican beachcombers. In his first feature picture, Ride Lonesome, released in 1959, Coburn played Pernell Roberts' faithful companion. Using the widescreen CinemaScope format for the first time, director Bud Boetticher achieved a significant milestone with the picture, which was shot in Lone Pine, California. Whit was originally meant to die in the tale, but Boetticher was able to persuade the studio to rewrite the screenplay after seeing Coburn's performance and decided the character should survive. In the end, this choice was wise. Coburn was so good that the film's lead, Randolph Scott, wanted him to have more lines. Thanks to this tweak, Coburn was able to stand out, and Boetticher forwarded the revised sequences to John Sturges, who was casting for The Magnificent Seven. The Magnificent Seven, 1960, in which Coburn starred as Brit, marked a watershed moment in his career. Coburn had a remarkable performance despite having only 11 lines of speech as the retiring samurai Brit, adapted from Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. His cool confidence and skill with weapons made an impact, as did his personality. Brit brought more nuance to his part because he joined the company for the challenge rather than the money. Not only did the picture assist establish the careers of Coburn and McQueen, but it also accomplished the same for Bronson, Vaughn, and McQueen. Cast as Flying Officer Lewis, the Professor, a character inspired by many real-life figures, Coburn achieved new heights in 1963's The Great Escape. In order to facilitate the escape, the Professor was a master craftsman. He played the role of one of just 3 inmates who managed to escape and reach freedom in the film. In order for the Professor to get away, he rode his bike to France, and then the French resistance smuggled him into Spain. One of the most famous war movies of all time, The Great Escape is largely due to Coburn's portrayal of the title character. A decision that James Coburn made in 1964 altered the course of his career and the annals of cinema. After producers were unable to secure Henry Fonda's services, they extended an offer to Coburn for the main role in A Fistful of Dollars. However, due to financial constraints, the producers could only afford to give him $15,000. They had to keep looking for an actor because of this disagreement about the amount of money. Rory Calhoun, Steve Reeves, Henry Silva, Charles Bronson, and a number of others were considered. They settled on Clint Eastwood, a somewhat unknown TV actor back then. The life-altering choice came when Clint Eastwood accepted the part for $15,000. His previous acting credit was as a supporting character in a low-rated TV Western. In the sequels to the trilogy, the success of A Fistful of Dollars catapulted his career and resulted in much larger salaries for him. His compensation increased to $50,000 upon payment of a small additional amount. Before he ever made The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he was already pocketing $250,000 on top of 10% of box office receipts. Eastwood became a great international star due to his meteoric rise. He quickly began receiving $500,000 to $1 million for his work in major Hollywood films such as Where Eagles Dare and Paint Your Wagon. James Coburn had a different trajectory than Clint Eastwood, who was achieving stardom in westerns. Late in 1964, Coburn opted to act in a comedy called Our Man Flint. Producer Saul David selected him for the role because he possessed a distinctive style that fused Humphrey Bogart's coldness with Jean-Paul Belmondo's charisma. The film was an enormous success upon its 1966 release. Coburn was a charismatic leading man thanks to his portrayal of the espionage Derek Flint, who possessed a plethora of technological devices including an 8-function cigarette lighter. Coburn declined to continue the series following the success of In Like Flint, the sequel. He desired to experiment with several roles and avoid being confined to just one. Interestingly, Austin Powers, played by Mike Myers, was inspired by his portrayal as Flint. Following his meteoric rise to fame, Coburn established his own production business, giving him greater creative control over his career. The President's Analyst, a daring political satire that came out in 1967, was his debut major production. It failed at the box office initially, but it eventually became beloved among movie buffs. As a result of becoming his own boss, Coburn was able to take on more ambitious and imaginative projects. With the passage of time, he even began to direct. Convoy, a co-directorship he held in 1978, demonstrated the maturation of his profession. James Coburn's life was significantly impacted by his first marriage. On November 11, 1959, he wed Beverly Kelly. Following a year of dating, they tied the knot and remained so for 19 years and 5 months before filing for a divorce on April 12, 1979. They had 2 kids while they were together. Their marriage also happened to be during the time when Coburn became a Hollywood star. He starred in The Great Escape and The Magnificent Seven when he was married to Beverly. After getting a divorce, Coburn dated British singer Lindsay Kemp for 4 years. Songwriting credits include Lion in the Blues for You and Melancholy Melon. After a breakup, Coburn remarried Paula Madsen in a fairy tale ceremony at Versailles, France, on October 22, 1993. The onset of severe rheumatoid arthritis in 1979 was a watershed moment in Coburn's life. His fingers twisted from the condition's shortened tendons, and it hurt so bad. Even getting to his feet would cause him to perspire profusely due to the excruciating discomfort. Given that this sickness echoed his father's sufferings, "Go bravely on" became an even more significant personal motto for Coburn. Nothing helped, even though I had access to top-notch medical treatment. Coburn sought therapy for his condition for 20 years, but nothing helped. He missed the most of the 1980s due to severe arthritis, which nearly terminated his acting career. At the age of 68, Coburn discovered a sulfur compound marketed in health food stores as an alternative therapy that gave him hope. Dr. Ronald Lawrence prescribed MSM to Coburn, and it helped with inflammation and discomfort. The effects were profound and noticeable right away. He was able to return to acting thanks to the medication, even if it didn't totally eliminate his arthritis. Following his rehabilitation, Coburn took a stand for MSM, going so far as to appear in ads for the product. With so little proof of MSM's efficacy in the scientific community, his success with this alternative treatment sparked debate and curiosity. Playing the part of John Simpson Chisholm, a cattle magnate in 1990's Young Guns 2, marked the beginning of his return. Given that he was bedridden for months due to his condition, his miraculous recovery is all the more remarkable. During this period, he appeared in a wide variety of films, including Hudson Hawk, Sister Act 2, and Maverick. His charisma and stage presence were unwavering, even while he was battling health issues. Many consider Coburn's 1998 performance, which he delivered at the age of 70, to be his finest work to date. The character of Glenn Whitehouse, a violent and abusive father, was dark and emotionally taxing, but he rose to the challenge and left an indelible impression in the film Affliction. He was named Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards for his role. This was a momentous occasion because it occurred over 40 years after his debut in The Magnificent Seven. Coburn has stated that his experiences working with Sam Peckinpah, a filmmaker who had battled alcoholism, served as inspiration for the part. The Academy Award was a public acknowledgement of his acting prowess and a private celebration of his triumph against chronic illness and misery. Coburn continued to work even as his arthritis made it increasingly difficult for him to appear in films. He found success in voice acting by utilizing his distinctive, deep, gravelly voice. He embarked on several voice acting gigs, and his voice became an integral aspect of his profession. He voice acted a character in the 2001 Disney Pixar film Monsters, Inc., which was one of his most well-known roles. No matter how he felt about being on camera, he never stopped lending his voice to movies and TV shows. Doctrine narration, such as that in White Rock, allowed him to maintain a Hollywood presence in the 1980s. Even though he was going through a tough period, Coburn devoted his last years to his trade. He had a 43-year acting career, appearing in 94 feature films, 24 television movies, and 73 television series. He was busy right up until the end of his life, appearing in films that showcased his acting chops. He was a homebody on the day of his death, November 18, 2002, and he loved music and played the flute. In addition to his acting career, Coburn's association with icons like Bruce Lee and Steve McQueen brought him widespread fame. After Bruce Lee demonstrated his now famous one-inch punch to James Coburn at a Hollywood party, the two became fast friends. His knowledge astounded Coburn, who wished he could pick his brain. Their connection deepened, and it went beyond their shared interest in martial arts. In Hollywood, Coburn became good friends with Lee. Aside from that, Lee had enough faith in him to collaborate with him on a screenplay for The Silent Flute. Lee seldom wrote scripts with anybody else. Coburn offered Lee career-altering advice in 1971. Lee considered playing the lead part in the TV series Kung Fu, but he was advised against it by Coburn. He worried that Lee's violent fighting style wouldn't hold up on television. It was Coburn's belief that Lee would have greater success in Hong Kong, so he advised him to return there. A decision to skip the broadcast was made by Lee after listening. Compared to Steve McQueen, he aspires to earn more money, he said Coburn. Once Lee got back to Hong Kong, he made the films that would make him famous. The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, and Entering the Dragon. Their friendship had its ups and downs. Things became heated when they traveled to India in search of settings for The Silent Flute. In Lee's mind, he was ensnared in the shadow of Coburn. Lee had little input despite his expertise in martial arts. This deeply distressed him and caused a schism between them. When Coburn paid Lee a further visit in Hong Kong, Lee was more concerned in flaunting his popularity than discussing potential future endeavors. They were never able to get back on the same foot. Coburn was a dedicated student of Bruce Lee's. Over the course of 3 years, he took over 100 individual lessons with Lee. He went so far as to replicate Lee's arrangement by creating a dedicated training area in his house. Along with studying the physical techniques of Kung Fu, Coburn dove headfirst into the art's underlying philosophy. Coburn had a spiritual understanding of martial arts, which Lee praised and set him apart from many of his other pupils. While training, Coburn kept a close eye on Lee's remarkable abilities. He was particularly impressed by Lee's quickness and strength as he kicked big bags so hard that they swung uncontrollably. Among Lee's Hollywood students, Coburn had the most unwavering commitment to martial arts. Sam Peckinpah and Coburn also had a great working connection. Though Peckinpah was famous for both his acting chops and his alcoholism, the two of them worked together on several films, including the critically acclaimed Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and the groundbreaking Cross of Iron. On Cross of Iron, his drinking was so out of control that production had to pause frequently for him to sober up. Because of his admiration for Peckinpah's creative vision, Coburn remained faithful to him despite these setbacks. Of all of Coburn's challenging parts, Cross of Iron stands out. This Wadu film featured him as Corporal Ralph Steiner. It was a challenging production from the beginning. Filming took place in Yugoslavia, but budget issues meant substantially less money than expected. Authentic Yugoslav army tanks and weaponry were painstakingly used by the team to achieve the desired realism. As production came to a close, one of the most intense scenes occurred. Attempts were made by producers to halt filming prior to the last scene. Coburn intervened to finish the sequence, including removing the producers off the set if necessary. "I will show you where the iron crosses grow," he says in that classic closing scene. Cross of Iron is widely regarded as one of the most realistic military films of all time, despite its budget overrun.